What up, guys? Did I say 15, 20 minutes? I think it's been like 20, 25 minutes. But my kid is now in the bed, bathed. The hair is shimmery smooth. I deep conditioned it. It's amazing. So we are back. If you missed our earlier live stream, check it out. We talked about the thing that we're calling the RAC challenge, the Random Act of Kindness challenge, and how you guys can make a better world before you're even physicians or dentists or nurses just by being kind to other people and not being a jerk. In this video, we're going to talk about a continuation of yesterday when I was mentioning when did average become the new normal, right? And that's the discussion we had yesterday. And some of you guys commented and had some really insightful comments. And so I wanted to kind of get back to that because I think that people sometimes can misinterpret what I say as you have to be the best. And it was a really insightful set of like 10 questions I got in one of the comments, and it was asking, well, I get what you're saying, it totally makes sense, that this person who got an average score on their step one score should, get better, but I'm a person who's really internalizes blame. I think that was a familiar name I saw in there. Oh, Vincent, what's up, man? My hair, what's going on? All right, so the question was, they said, I'm an internal person. I tend to really blame myself for everything that happens. I hold it in. I get a bad grade on the test. It's all my fault. And they like shame themselves into feeling bad. And that's not what I meant by my video yesterday. So a lot of us pre-meds, right, our pre-dent, our pre-health people, we're perfectionists. We're type A personalities. And what that means, right, we all get in the classroom together and all that perfectionism comes around and not everybody can be perfect. Not everybody can get the A. And so it leads to problems. And so today I want to talk about being the perfect perfectionist. So as an extension of yesterday's video of striving to be great and never settling for an average test score. At the same time, what we have to understand is that it's not being the best in a global sense of, I have to be better than everyone else. Yes, that should be, right? It's a goal, but maybe that's not realistic for all of us. And that's just being honest, right? Where you are right now, you're not going to all of a sudden tomorrow become the best in your class. But you can set yourself up for victory every single day by trying to be your best and be better than yourself the day before. And I, every day, have a great day, and I take time at the end of my day to reflect and think about how the day went. And it really kind of keeps me going because residency is difficult, guys. If you guys don't know what you're in for, it's way harder than undergrad. You're not, it's on a whole nother level of fatigue and mental just stress and all these things. And so one of the ways that I cope and that I get through my day and make sure that every day is a positive day is I take time to reflect every single day about how that day went well for me and how I bettered myself and how on Tuesday I was better than Monday and how on Monday I was better than Sunday. And if you look at your life that way and you take it step by step and you inch your way to greatness, you will feel very fulfilled every single day because you'll know, man, I made progress. Today was a positive day. I took a step forward. You know what? I studied 0 yesterday. Today I studied 5 minutes. Yes, right? Or if you do poorly in a class, right? You do poorly on that test. Dang it. I got an F. Okay. We don't get down on ourselves in the sense that we shame ourselves and we say, oh, you're an F student. You're terrible. You have no hope. You should feel terrible and ashamed of yourself for getting that low of a score. That's not what we do. And the difference is the difference in what is called constructive criticism versus being critical. And a lot of you guys out there know what I'm talking about, where you guys are critical of yourselves, where you never feel good enough, where you never feel like a success, where you always feel like you're letting yourself down, you're letting your family down, you're letting everyone who knows you, whoever will know you, even people who don't know you, you're letting them down, right? You feel terrible about yourself because you're critical. You're like, oh, I should have done this differently. Oh, I should have done this differently. And how many of you guys do that, right? Comment if that's you. If you feel like you go through your day and something will happen, maybe you'll have an interaction with someone and you'll reflect on it like a minute later, you're like, dang it, why did I say that my feet smell? Dang it, I should have let off with something like you're beautiful, not my feet smell, right? How many of you guys do that to yourselves where you critique every single thing you do, every action, even if it's a seemingly trivial, meaningless action? Oh, I should have made a left instead of the right. Now I got to make a U-turn. Dang it, it's going to set me back 2 minutes of my day and I'm already behind schedule. And you're critical of yourself. That's not what I'm promoting. That's not what this is about. What I'm promoting is being constructively critical, right? Or critiquing yourself constructively. And so what I mean by that is if something doesn't go your way, so say you go up talk to a girl, hey girl, how you doing? You look good, right? And instead of saying that, you say, hey, I have smelly feet. I leave the toilet seat up, and I'm untrustworthy. You want to date, right? So say you you lay that on a girl, right? That's awful. It's terrible. Yes, you can get upset at yourself for saying that, right? We all recognize that's the wrong way to go about it. But what's more important, and this is how you get to that greatness step, is you say, wait, player, what is wrong with me right now? This is not, no. That's not what we do. Hold on. Let me get in touch, right, with the player inside you, right? The lady killer, the one all the women love. Get in touch with that person and say, wait, what would the player in me say? Well, the player in me would say, hey girl, I'm a guy. I noticed you from afar. You look amazing. You're the finest girl I've ever seen in my life. And if I could just know your name, I would be blessed today. Can you tell me your name? Right? And she might give you your name. And then you're off to the races, wherever it might go. But you think about what went wrong in every which way. So you say, okay, well, why did I say I had smelly feet? Well, I do have smelly feet. Well, how do I correct that? First, get some Dr. Scholl's, fix the feet. Right? Petra, what is up? Petra just graduated. Woot woot, throw it up for Petra. She just graduated. She's one of my students. Very, very proud of her, doing her thing. She's a grinder. As you talk about getting better and making your personal best, she's one of those people. So I really like working with her. So um, as you talk about like every single day, just getting a little bit better and being constructive in your criticism of yourself. So, okay, the test went poorly. Fine, I got an F. Now, what can I do next time to not get an F? That's the key question, guys. What went wrong this time? Oh, you know what? I didn't study enough. It's an easy fix. Study more. Oh, you know what? I studied a lot. And in the question that the student asked me, they said, I'm very internal. I blame myself and I'm really upset. I don't know how to stop comparing myself to other people because I feel like I work 3 times as hard as them and I'm not getting the result that I want. I'm not getting the result I want. I work 3 times as hard as they work. I don't see them working hard at all. And it feels like it's terrible. It feels terrible inside that I work hard and I don't see them working hard, but I don't know what to do. And the first thing I would say to that is, well, why are you working 3 times harder than everybody else? You shouldn't be working harder than everyone else. And this is kind of off topic, on topic, but I'm so happy. I now have my second MCAT course review. My MCAT course just came out last month, and I have my second MCAT course review. And the second review is another student who's taken the MCAT before, who's struggled before with other prep companies, is taking mine and is doing better. And one of the things is, and I always try to tell people this, right? Like I'm sitting here with you guys, I'm real with you guys. Nobody's perfection. I'm not a perfect person. I wasn't always a stellar student. I am now. I will destroy you in the classroom, but that wasn't always the case. And the reason I emphasize that with you guys is A, so that you know that you can do it, but then also so you guys understand when I teach you guys stuff. So when you guys take my courses, I'm not teaching to the top of the class. And so it's so funny with some of these, I get contacted by these different companies who want to work with me and, hey, listen, we can do some things. And I'm like, I'm not really so excited about it because I like to do my own thing. But what they always say is, listen, we have these great statistics. We get 90% of our people into medical school, into Ivy League medical schools and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, that's great. But you guys are cherry picking. You guys are taking people who can afford to pay $6,000 for your personal one-on-one mentorship for forever, right? And so you're selecting the people that are Donald Trump kids, right? Who are going to go to Ivy League anyway because their daddy went to Ivy League. The students I teach to, the students I work with are the students who are the disadvantaged students, the students who's maybe can't get to an Ivy League school. Maybe that's not in the cards for them. But I work with them to help them get to the best place they can get. And I am constructively critical of what they do, and I'm not overly critical where I'm critiquing them. I'm actually giving them constructive feedback to how they can be their best self. And that's what it is, guys, is understanding your own barometer, your own meter, and striving to push that as far as you can. But understanding at the same time that our meters, right, we can go a lot further than we ever envisioned going. That's what it is. If that makes sense. I don't know where that all went, but this is the joy of live, is that this is like just me speaking. But does that make sense to people? I have to ask for confirmation there because I don't know exactly if what I was trying to get across there came across. Yes, Hannah T got it right. To be the best version of yourself, whatever that means for you, right? If everybody else is doing whatever they're doing, they're going Ivy League, maybe that's not your path. There's nothing wrong with that. If you work your tail off and you do everything you can, not working hard, working smart, putting in as many hours as you can, as well as you can put those hours in, if you're doing that, right? If you're using every resource available to you, if you're working your tail off, if you are going after it with all your might, right, and you're passionate about it, there's no shame in getting somewhere, right? So if you're at a mid-tier or a lower tier medical school, there's no shame in that. I never shame anybody who's anywhere because everyone has their own personal journey. If you're at a state school, don't have no shame in being from a state school. And this happens to me. I'll go out and do talks, and people come up to me after the talk. I'm like, hey, I'm a non-traditional student. I'm like, what? Like, I'm a non-traditional. And they'll whisper that they're a non-traditional student, like it's something to be ashamed of. And I'm like, guys, you're talking to a non-traditional student. You're talking to a person who took time after their bachelor's degree and got a master's degree. You're talking to a person who took a gap year after my master's degree to make sure everything was right in my application to go to medical school. The end result is I got to Stanford, but it's not about getting to Stanford. But there's nothing wrong. There's nothing limiting about being non-traditional because we're all our own person. All I can do every day is try to be my best. I'm not somebody else. I'm not, this eloquent speaker who's going to come on here and use big fancy words. It's not me, right? It's just, it wouldn't be true to myself, but I know what I can do and I try to be the best version of that every single day. And so I encourage you guys, right? If you're a perfectionist, don't beat yourself down seeking to be other people's perfect, seeking to be your own perfect. Even now, guys, I tell you guys, I say this on every video, I'm a studying expert. I am honestly an amazing, amazing studier myself, and I know how to teach other people to be that amazing when they study. Not in question, it is what it is. But with that being said, I'm not a perfect studier by any means, and I'm constantly looking for new ways to improve my studying. And even in anesthesia now, right, I'm learning anesthesia and I'm doing well, but I struggle sometimes to kind of find the right way to grasp all the material. And it was so refreshing. Like 3 days ago, I worked with this attending who's amazing. He's brand new to UCSD, but he's older than dirt. And it's not an offense to him if he sees this, but he's old, right? He's been around the block. He's been chief. So if you guys know like Seattle Grace in Grey's Anatomy, so this professor was actually chief at the real hospital that Seattle Grace is supposed to be. It's called Harper View up in Washington. And so he was actually chief of anesthesia there, and he's the bomb. Like, he's amazing. He was chief there for a long time. He's amazing. And so he came into the operating room, and I intubated the patient. It was so awkward because I intubated the patient. There's a lot of stuff you have to do in between when you put the patient to sleep and you intubate them. There's a lot of stuff you have to do from there to like the next part of the case with the surgeons can get started. And instead of allowing me to do my job, he starts grilling me on all this stuff and fixed principle. And you guys know like laminar flow and Laplace's law and all these things. And we start going through these, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And he's just like blowing my mind by giving me new ways to think about memorizing all these different equations and going right back to physics and chemistry and all these little basic formulas that make a huge difference in terms of anesthesia, like ideal gas laws and gas displacement when we're oxygenating the lungs and pushing all the nitrogen out, giving 100% oxygen and all these things that we were talking about it. And I'm not going to bore you guys with the anesthesia talk, but there was one really cool thing he was talking about. And he's like, yeah, so what is the way that we assess cardiac risk of death? Right? So when you go to pre-op a patient, how do you tell them what their risk of dying is? And I was like, well, we use the RCRI, right? The revised cardiac risk index. And he's like, well, what are the factors of it? And I was like, and I was like struggling to name them like one by one. I think I got to like 3 of them. And he's like, you're killing me right now. How do you not know these off the top of your head? You pre-op people all day, every day. And I said, I just don't know them. He said, well, let me give you a new way to think about it. And I couldn't believe that I didn't have this vision of ways to think about it. But again, right, as good of a studier as I am, there's always ways to improve and ways to pick up things. And he said, well, there's 6 factors. And the way to remember them, and this is called chunking, which I teach people in my courses, is you break them into 2 groups. There's one group of risk factors, which are historical risk factors, and there's another group that are current risk factors. And so the 6 risk factors, right, so the historical ones are history of stroke, history of heart attack, history of heart failure. If you have one of those 3 things, you're at increased risk of dying in the surgery. He then said there's the 3 that are current things. So if you're in kidney failure with a creatinine greater than 2, if you're a diabetic on insulin, and if it's a high risk surgery. Stacy, who loves chunking, yes, right? So those 6 things, but he broke them into those 2 categories. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so much easier to memorize. And then he said, well, wait, do you know what the percent mortality is for each one of those points that you acquire? And I'm like, I have no idea. He's like, here's how you remember it. He's like, you can memorize the small percentages, but it's hard. Here's what's better. 0, 7, 11. I was like, what? And he goes, if you have one risk factor, If you have zero risk factors, the percentage is 0.4. So very 0.4%. So it's very small. So it's like call it zero. If you have one risk factor, it jumps up to 1%. If you have two risk factors, it's 6.6. So we round up to 7. And if you have three risk factors, it's 11. So I think of 7-Eleven as a dangerous place because there's stand up or people, there's armed robberies that occur at 7-Eleven. And so I think of, okay, these three things into two groups. And then when they're in two groups, boom, I've broken them down. And then how do I remember the risk factor percentages? 7-Eleven, dangerous, you'll get shot. Boom. And I was like, that's pretty dope. Like, I will not forget now my revised cardiac risk. I'm sure you guys won't forget now, but the revised cardiac risk index, historical and current things, and then the percentages is 0, 7, 11. And so just that way, as an expert studier, I still just learned a new way to study. So that's what I'm talking about chasing that perfection in yourself and getting better constantly. Because I've been studying for years, but sometimes you need that extra perspective to help you get better. All right, so that's what that is. So let's get some of these questions on here. Stacy, thank you for saying my videos are amazing. I appreciate that. Vincent, thanks for the email. I'll buy your course at the first of the month. Of course, you're welcome to it. I'm glad to have you aboard with us. A hair actually saw me out in Maryland. We met up at a live event, and we've been talking, and he's going to enroll in my study course. We've been emailing back and forth. So I'm excited to have him aboard so he can improve his studying and get himself into medical school. He is non-traditional to the max, and he's an example of how you can be non-traditional, how you can have a background that doesn't necessarily traditionally lead to medical school, but you can find your way with hard work and persistence. And so he's that example. Hi, Dr. B. This is Eric Lincoln. Do you recommend to do dental school for a better lifestyle? Do dentists have an easier time during dental school? The follow-up question is because medical school residencies seem so stressful for me, and I'm starting to reconsider after seeing what medical students have to go through. I love medicine and people, but I don't think I can handle that much stress. So this is a topic for a whole nother day, and I'll do a whole video on that because that's, like, people know. Actually, I mentioned being out in Baltimore, and so I actually went out to Baltimore, and the student group who was hosting the event for me was actually the Pre-Dental Society. And so I told those kids, they're the smarter kids than the pre-meds, because medicine is crazy long, is crazy hard. And at the end of the day, we talked about money yesterday, and I'm bringing money back into it again. But dentists take cash, and they get super high percentage reimbursement from Medicare, Medicaid, and from other insurance companies. When you look at physicians and what their reimbursement is from insurance, it's nickels on the dollar. So let's say you're a physician and you do $100 worth of work, you only get paid for $15 to $25 worth of work, which is crazy. Like, how can you sustain a business that way? And actually, the truth is you can't, and that's what drives down the revenue for physicians. And so it's really, really an unfortunate thing. But I think going into dentistry is a very smart decision. I can't fault that, but you have to be okay looking at people's teeth all day. And despite the easier path, I just don't know if I'd be fulfilled being in people's mouth all day. So something to think about. All right. So I hope that answers your question, Eric. This is when I asked if you guys blame yourselves and you critique yourselves all day. So thank you for being honest. Marquise, kind of hard on yourself. Yes. So June is coming, EQ Sun. Yes, June is coming. The applications are in. Hopefully you guys are already working on it. Applications are already open. You should be working on it so you can get submitted as early as possible, get verified, all that good stuff. So EQ Sun, hello Dr. Pinesett. When you're applying for med school, do you recommend using MSAR? Absolutely 100%. If you are a pre-med, and this doesn't go from when you apply, if you are a freshman, if you are a high school student and you're pre-med and you don't have a copy of the MSAR, and what's crazy now, the MSAR is online. That's how far the world has come. Back in my day, you had to order the MSAR and it came in a box. It was crazy. It was paper. But now it's online. So if you don't have a copy or access to the online version of the MSAR, you are slipping as a pre-med student because you don't know what you're aspiring to do and what schools really value. And that MSAR book actually does a good job of breaking down, and people focus on the MCAT and the GPA parts of it. But if you actually really look at the MSAR, there's a lot of good statistics in there about people who have schools that value advanced degrees, schools that value non-traditional backgrounds, schools that value students from community college. All those stats are in there. It gives you a list of their mission statement and so now you have a better sense for when you're writing your personal statement, what you want to hit on when you're writing that personal statement so you can target it to those schools. So MSAR is hugely valuable. You should absolutely have that if you're going to be applying. And I'm sorry my finger's like going by, but to get the messages, I got to scroll over here. So got that one. Um, Hi, Ali. Brian. I love how Brian, you must be like, you get these crazy alerts. I don't know what you got to tell these people how you have this alert set up because you were on every live stream. I love it. Brian, so aside from grades and research, how are medical disabilities from the military affect an applicant, PTSD, physical injuries? I get this question a lot too, right, from students who have disabilities. And so I can always answer these questions because the students I work with, right, are disadvantaged students who have disabilities, students who have these issues, right? So I enjoy working with students who aren't the picture of perfection from the start and kind of molding them into an amazing student. And I want to tell you guys, no matter what your disability is, some of you guys are dyslexic, some of you guys have ADHD, some of you guys have anxiety, some of you guys have blind, whatever your condition is, okay? You can always overcome that condition, but what it really takes, and this is important, you can't become a victim of your disease or your condition. You can't allow your condition to dictate your life. Instead, you have to dictate to your condition. And that may seem pie in the sky to you, but here's the simple fact of what I mean. One common thing that happens with students is anxiety. So you have anxiety, you know you have anxiety, you're an anxious person, right? You've got an anxiety disorder, you've got panic disorder, whatever it might be. And people say, oh, I can't function because I have anxiety. I can't overcome it. Yes, you can. And the way you do that is by putting everything in place to avoid your triggers for anxiety. For example, if you're a person who gets anxious about getting things done, you need to make sure that you never have too many things on your plate at once. Okay? And one of the students I worked with recently, when we talked about this and we went through it, and I've told you guys before, I mentioned in the video earlier, someone's an asshole. I'm an asshole. Honestly, when I work with students, I'm very hard on students because my motto, right, is no excuses, just dominate. I don't have patience when we're talking about excuses. So I cut right to the chase. Let's be real about it. And so one of my students recently got in a situation. She was preparing for the MCAT and she signed up for OChem and some other classes and all these classes, and she had a lot going on, and it put herself in a position where she wasn't ready for the MCAT. And so we had to have some real talk about, listen, you know you have anxiety, you know you're gonna be overwhelmed, you know it's gonna be too much. You have to put yourself in a position where you're not taking 15 classes and trying to study for the MCAT. That's a you problem, right? And so we talked about it, and we had the discussion back and forth, and then it was so great because she's a smart girl. She knows what's up, right? And she had this because sometimes we need to hear it from other people. And so she's like, you're right. And so she's going to make some changes to make sure that she's in a position where she doesn't flare her anxiety, right? She's not a victim of her disease. Instead, she's telling her disease, listen, you have no fuel to burn to go bright and take over my life because I'm going to remove that from the equation. I'm going to take things step by step, take my time, and put myself in a position where I'm not overwhelmed and my anxiety is not kicked off. Does that make sense? So that's how you handle disabilities. If your disability is being dyslexic, being a slow reader, like I said, I'm the slowest reader you'll ever meet. This is not a lie, guys. I'm barely hooked on phonics. Like, it's terrible. But I dictate to my condition, right? So I've learned ways to get around my slow reading, to still get to the material, to still perform better than other people. And that's what you have to do. That's what I teach people to do in my study class. And that's what you have to figure out how to do for yourself if that is your issue, something along those lines. So that was one side of it. The other side of your question is, how do medical schools respond to that? Well, medical schools cannot discriminate against you for your disability. And it's like I always tell people about disadvantage. Disability works the same way. If you have a disability and you underperform, medical schools don't care about your disability. They won't give you preferential treatment. They don't care. If you're like, listen, I'm dyslexic, that's why I have a 2.1, they'll be like, oh, well, take your dyslexic 2.1, have an ass somewhere else, not the medical school. That's the truth, right? If you are dyslexic and you perform well, and you can tell them, listen, despite being dyslexic, I still got the grades, that's even more impressive, and schools will look at you favorably. So no matter what your disability is, you need to excel. So if you have PTSD, whatever it might be, you still have to excel. It cannot be an excuse. It cannot be a crutch. It has to go up a notch. You have to perform and do it just like everyone else is doing it. Now, you may have a modified curriculum. There's nothing wrong with that, right? People get extra time on tests. People who space out their learning. Whatever you need to do for your conditions is totally fine as long as you do what you have to do to perform. All right. All right, we're going to do a couple more questions. Man, you guys are talking on here. I like it. Oh, I didn't know that. Is Tiffany Trump going to Georgetown Law? Ooh, yeah, that makes sense. See what I'm saying? You got a rich daddy, you can go places. Christopher, what is up? Christopher, I got your email. I'm going to reply to you tonight. I got your email. That is all good. You are good to go for that course. So you're all good. I'll email you tonight. Casey, I always see Casey on here too. Thank you so much, Casey, for coming on every time I'm on here. Ali, everyone says study smarter. Everyone says it, but then you have to execute it, right? So if you guys go on my website right now, I have a course at $7, and I talk about the difference between studying smart and studying hard. And that kind of gives you a nice little segue into it so you can kind of figure out what's going on. And then if you really want to study smart, then you take my full course, which is the 5 pillars of studying less and getting better grades. That's how you do it. So you're exactly right, Allie. And that's why I'm always preaching on here, guys. Like, don't listen to people because everyone says the same things. Oh, do well in your classes, get extracurriculars, all these types of things, but they don't have mechanisms and ways to teach you guys how to do it. And that's what I do. So when I say study smarter, I say that because I can actually teach you how to study smarter. So it's a real thing. So thank you for pointing that out, Ali. I appreciate that. Yeah, Casey, non-traditional. I'm proud of it. Dang right. Eric C. Yes, non-traditional students. We definitely out here. Okay, representing non-traditional. Brian coming back after 5 years. That's right, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you know what's interesting is it's a long, hard journey. The people who actually do the best, truthfully, are the people who had time in between undergrad and graduate school, because they have they have a sense of how hard the real world is. And so when they're hard in the real world, right? It's hard in the real world. You then go to medical school and you're like, well, yeah, this is hard, but it ain't real hard. They're giving me loans, like, I can live, there's a roof over my head, I don't have to worry about where food's coming from. So it's hard, but the real world is harder. And so you get that perspective when you're out for a little while in the real world. So let's see. Ron Ham said, older than dirt. I like that. I feel old. Do you guys see the grays in this beard? I feel older than dirt, okay? So Absalos111 says, I'm 32 years old. I'm applying in 2019. Big time non traditional. I love it. Do it to it. That's what it's about. So Jet T asked, "What is my undergraduate GPA?" So I don't give out my personal stats. My GPA was very strong. It wasn't the strongest, but it was strong enough to get me into schools. And that's one thing. If we're going to talk about GPAs real quick, is that a lot of people get is application time, right? So everyone's like hung up, like, oh, if my GPA is not 3.8, I'm not competitive, and that's not the case. All you care about is not being so bad with your GPA that you don't meet over their cutoff. And so schools have minimum cutoffs. And so you want to make sure you're just over that line. And so I was recently talking to someone in the administration at UCLA, and I was having a discussion with them because I have a student who wants to go there this cycle. So I was like, listen, I'm just going to talk to you. I have the student. They're great. Here's some things. Da, 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 what do you think? And they were saying, as things come up, right? It's how I get information to give to you guys. Is that their minimum cutoff at UCLA? Shh! Don't tell me I told you guys this. Right? Their cutoff at UCLA is right around 3.2, and so right, that's where their cutoff is. And so if you're not in that 3.2 ballpark, if you're below that, you're probably not going to get past their initial cutoff to have your application reviewed. So understand that and realize that, right? But if you have a 3.3, you're competitive. So understand that it's not about having the highest GPA. It's just not about being cut. So getting right above the cutoff so you can sneak in and have your application considered. That's what you're doing. Okay, let's see. You feel old. Allie, that's very good. Not applying till everything is perfect. That's how guys should do it. Take your time. Don't feel rushed. Get everything right to maximize your chances of getting in. Casey took 3 years off while working on my bachelor's because I have 3 boys. Outstanding. Going back this fall after I pop out my third kid end of June. You're my idol, Casey, because I have a second kid on the way in July, and I don't know what my life's going to turn into pretty soon here. So you're my idol for handling 3 kids and charging into pre-med. So Utopian 5, there's a course to study better. I'm so tired of these all-nighters in undergrad. So Utopian 5, there absolutely is a course. It's my course. It's the 5 pillars to studying less and getting better grades. It is the bomb, guys. There's real reviews on my website. You can see it. It's premedproductivity.com. Those are real reviews from students. Their actual names are on there. And you guys can see I don't filter any of the reviews. Someone leaves a review, it's on there. And the reviews have been glowing. We have a nice community we're building. We're over in the Slack app, and for people who have bought a course and are not in Slack yet, we're having some technical difficulties with Slack. We're going to get it figured out, but we're building this really nice community of students who are supporting each other. Like today, there was like I opened up my phone. My phone died, and I opened up my phone after the surgery, and there was like a 30 message back and forth thread about about which schools require whatever prerequisites, and these students were helping each other and critiquing each other, and I'm so happy that we're building this supportive community with my students. So it's really a good thing. So Casey and Petra are going to hook up and talk. I'm liking that. Dan in. Hey, Dr. Dre, first time on the live chat. You the man. Thank you, Dan. I feel like the man. I'm just but thank you. I'm glad you're your first time here on the live chat. Glad to have new people. Yes, method of loci. So I think you're talking about loci. I think you're talking about like locus of positivities and locus of center and or internal, external motivation. I don't know, but I think that's what we're talking about. Let me keep going. Hi, Dr. Pinesett. Quick question. Can any of our surgical shadowing experiences prior to beginning undergrad be put on our resume for medical school? Striving for greatness. Would love your insight. Well, Aubrey, let me ask you this question. If you are 50 years old and you apply to medical school, can you use your extracurriculars from college 30 years ago? Yes, you can. So why wouldn't things before undergrad count? Of course they would. And so therefore, you need to start, whenever you identify that you're going to be pre-med, start improving yourself that day, start working on things, start bettering yourself, start building your resume to be competitive. That's what it's about. It's not about learning what is required to apply to medical school the year you're applying, which is what a lot of people do, right? They get the MSAR book the year they're applying. They start looking at blogs and articles and SDN the year they're applying. You need to be looking for resources well before then and not SDN. I'm going to keep saying that. If I repeat it enough, you guys will internalize that and stay off SDN. So let me keep going here. Casey, can I email you with some questions? Oh, no, that wasn't for me. Okay. So Allie, what's the course? It's 5 pillars of studying less, getting better grades. It's amazing. It's amazing. And one of the coolest feedback reviews I got on there, and it really like touched me, was one of the students said, the course is expensive. I thought the course was expensive. And then I took the course, and in one semester, I saved more money on tutoring and all this stuff that I spent on the course. And I'm like, that's pretty good. In one semester, you made your money back on the course. But that's what we're trying to do, guys. I'm trying to build independent students where you guys can grow and do what you want to do with the studying and having ability to access the material at will and be independent in whatever you want to do without tutors, without professors, doing whatever you want to do. Okay. How would you go about Dr. Dre? Oh, I'm the real MVP. Thank you. I'm the real MVP. By the way, did you guys see from I don't know if my sports fans out there watched, the All NBA team came out and Paul George and Gordon Hayward were not on the All NBA team. So now they miss out and they're not eligible for max deals, these 205-year, $200 million deals. So they just lost like $80 million in possible earnings. And I'm like, ooh, that hurts. So keep your game up, consistency. Otherwise, it can cost you millions. How would you Eric C says, how would you recommend finding mentors in medicine? It seems like people are always busy. And that's 100% true, guys. People are super, super busy. The reason I created the courses is because I couldn't handle all the students I was mentoring. I was like, I want to help so many students, but there's no way I can expand and mentor more people. And that's why, for example, every year I limit the number of students that I mentor and work with to 50, because I know it gets out of control. And so the reason I build all these courses is because I'm like, listen, if I could take everything that's in my brain and I could make it so that you don't actually need a mentor, you can literally learn everything you need to learn on these online courses and be independent, that would be the bomb, and I can help a lot of people. But how do you go out there and how do you find a mentor? Just like anything else, it's persistence. So it's not going to be the first person you ask. It's not going to be the 10th person you ask. It might be the 100th. But you got to keep asking, keep getting out there. And something that I see students don't do a lot is actually network effectively. And so I actually have a course that's going to be coming out in the fall about networking, but in a bubble shortly, quickly right here. You guys need to, first things first is you need to go to events. A lot of you guys don't go to conferences unless you're presenting. You don't have to be presenting to go to a conference. Go to the conference, walk around. You might meet professors, you might meet doctors who you can then have as mentors who you can shadow. And it's not so awkward, like you're just running up to them somewhere that's random and say, hey, listen, I heard you're a doctor. Can I shadow you? You're at a professional conference, so it's natural to want to network and make connections. And so it's a great place to go and meet mentors. So what I would say is be active in your mentor search. Don't give up. Be persistent. Get out there and just go and find mentors. So that's what I would say. Be active. I really love these live things. So if you guys weren't aware, we were going to have a Q&A webinar last week. And the reason I want to do a webinar is two reasons. And I had to cancel it because of my work schedule. But the reason I want to do an actual webinar as opposed to these is that when you guys are having these great conversations here and asking these great questions, they all disappear after the live stream. And so, like I said, there's so many questions piling in here and there's so many good comments where you guys are interacting. I'd love to capture that. And doing a webinar, it allows me to capture all those things so I can make sure, A, we have the time, the infrastructure to address all these things, but also so that other people can see these things. And so it creates this perpetual kind of information stream. And so please be on the lookout. I'm going to be having Q&A webinars, and they're going to be better than even this. I think this is good. You guys are getting good advice. But on these webinars, what's going to be nice is I'm going to be able to actually go in. So these videos, right, I try to keep my YouTube videos under like 20 minutes. We're at 36 minutes right now because I can actually see the trends on how you guys watch these videos, and it cracks me up that you guys will turn videos off at like right around 15 minutes because you guys, it's that fast, era where you guys want data. And so people will cut off videos at 15 minutes and they'll miss great information in the 30th minute. So I try to keep these videos shorter, but on a webinar, what's nice is that we can have the webinar be super long. And so we can just go at it and just really go in on things. I can get on the whiteboard and we can just talk and answer questions really in depth and break down people's profiles. So I think that would be a better way to really get at this and really have lots of questions answered and help lots of people. So please be on the lookout. Check my events page on my website and also be on the lookout. I'll announce it here and I'll announce it on my social media. So check that out. And some people say like, hey, like people comment or don't watch actually, and then they comment on my advertising videos. And the only reason I advertise stuff to you guys is because it provides value to you guys. And half the time I'm advertising free stuff. So like the Q&A webinar we were going to have last week was free. And so if I don't tell you guys about it, you guys don't hear about it, and then you guys don't get to benefit from it. So I have to advertise on here. Otherwise, how are you going to hear about all these great opportunities to get yourself better? Okay? Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Is everybody still with me? Give me some likes. If you're still with me, give me some likes on here so I know that I'm still reaching you guys and that some of you guys haven't signed off after 15 minutes like I think you guys do. All right. Follow-up question on the arrogant students. Researching at a top research institutions, and I have to deal with an Ivy League jerk. So I think we kind of touched on this when we were in person. I'll call you Vincent DePaul because that's your name on here. But we kind of touched on this person. When you guys are in opportunities, you're going to meet a lot of people who think they're big boss dogs and they're not, right? Where you have to work in a research lab and your co-lab partner is an a-hole. If that's the case, realize that you're there for you and not for them. And don't let other people's comments dissuade you from doing what you have to do. You're in that research lab to better yourself. So if they want to be a jerk, if they want to make your experience miserable, the only time people can make you miserable is if you let them. So don't let them rain on your parade and stop you from doing the research you have to do. And here, you're at the NIH. So you're at the NIH doing crazy research. Don't let some, idiot who's got rich parents make you feel bad because you don't have rich parents and because you're striving to better yourself and you're at the NIH doing big things. So be proud of yourself for being there and get it done. That's what I would say to you cats. If you're having problems with someone at work or whatever, recognize that you're not there for them. You're there for yourself, for your future kids, for your family. You're there to represent. All right. These questions keep coming, man. Dang. I'm glad about you guys are answering your own questions. I like this. Okay, Casey. Hey Doc, would you recommend for me to do? What would you recommend for me to do this summer to prepare to go back to school for first time after a 3-year break? What I would recommend is really, really start thinking about first your study skills. Right, get your study skills on point. Read about it. Take a course, my course, whatever you want to do to better yourself in terms of studying. But then beyond that, I would start really. You have 3 kids. Start thinking about spend lots of time with them, but then also start thinking about ways that you're going to put yourself in a position to succeed by arranging for support around you for both you and your kids. Because it's not going to be an easy trek in these next, right? If you're just starting pre-med, the next 8, 10, 12 years. So you got to make sure that everybody's on board in your life. Make sure your husband is on board. Make sure your kids understand that, listen, you may not see mommy, but mommy cares about you and mommy's working for you. And so that's what I would say is in the next couple months, start thinking about how you're going to have that support infrastructure, how you're going to build that family work-life balance as you go back into school and you get all that grind. Okay. Okay, how do I go about asking for a letter of rec ahead of time? So I actually, Absalos, I think you got on here late. I actually talked about letters of recommendation. Either I talked about letter of recommendation in the first part of this video, or I did a stream earlier today where I talked about how to make the world a better place and how to help people. That video has that video actually talks about how to get a letter of recommendation in advance properly. Okay, give me 1 second, guys. What do you like to see on out-ins first before signing up for coaching? I'm not sure what that means of Spring Freak. So you probably have to re-ask that question. Jack Kennedy. So Dr. Pine said, I'm currently a sophomore, soon to be junior, and I have a 3.8 GPA overall, 3.72 science GPA with all my prereqs completed. Am I doing okay so far going to my upper divis? So Jack, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt here because you're on my channel, and I'm going to assume you're not a troll, but that's some kind of ish that gets asked on StudentDoctor.net. So let me repeat this to everybody. So Jack said, so Dr. Pine said, I'm currently a sophomore, soon to be junior, and I have a 3.8 GPA overall, 3.7 science, and all my prereqs completed. Am I doing okay so far? So Jack, you should know that you are doing okay so far. You're doing spectacular so far. But it all means nothing if you don't keep it up to the very end. So keep that going, keep that consistency, keep that strong GPA, and then also make sure, right, not just the GPA, that you have all your extracurriculars in place. Where's the research at? Where's the volunteering at? Where's all the things you need to be a well-rounded applicant beyond just the numbers of your GPA? Additionally, start thinking about the Mcat and how you're going to score well in the Mcat and be prepared for that. What do you do once, Nicole? What do you do once you get into med? And I think, Nicole, you actually might have messaged me or commented or something and asked that, and I'll do a video on how you do well once you get into medical school. It's much the same as in undergrad, but just taken to a higher level. So your skills have to be even better. Your study skills, your time management skills, your people skills, all those things have to be just that much better to survive in medical school. Dancing with the Docs. It's been a while since I've seen you on here on one of these live feeds. I'm glad you could make it. Exactly, Emmanuel. No excuses, just dominate. That's exactly true. Evans, hey, Dr. P. I have a 3.9 GPA, and I'm scheduled to take the MCAT 22nd of July. Do you recommend submitting app on the first day of June in order to get verified, or is it better to wait for my score than submit? It depends. Your GPA is 3.9, so your MCAT really doesn't matter that much for your application because the GPA and MCAT kind of balance each other out. So I would actually submit your application the first day it comes out if you can. In terms of for you guys who are getting your applications together, I'm also going to have a webinar that's all about putting your application together and your personal statement. So be on the lookout for that announcement coming up this week to kind of help you guys get ready for the application, because wouldn't that be nice? So we'll do that also. But it's very important for your application. It's one of the biggest factors in determining your odds of getting into medical school is getting your application in early in the process where you're still considered. Because what good does it do to have this amazing application and you submit it after they've already reviewed and sent out all the interviews they're ever going to send out? So I would definitely, even if you're taking your MCAT late, I would submit your application early, get verified. But a lot of schools won't even review it seriously until they see that MCAT. So get verified, get that MCAT in early, and get your stuff done. And Tyaz, what is up? You mentioned to me that you worked 3 30-hour shifts. How much sleep do you get in between those shifts, and how do you prepare for something like that? Is the law ever going to change back? So Tyaz is one of the students I work with and I mentor, and so we were talking last week, and he was trying to get a hold of me for his personal statement that we're working on, and I was like Space Ghost. But last week I worked call around the clock every other day last week. So I was working 24 to 30 hours every single day I was working last week, and it was crazy. And so, how do you prepare yourself for that? You don't, guys. You see these bags in my eyes. You guys see it's crazy around here. You can only cross your fingers, click your heels, and hope you make it through the night. You just honestly, the biggest thing you do is you have to find ways to rest in between your shifts, ways to be with your family, all that good stuff. So get that stuff done. Find ways to recharge. I don't know how I make it through 30-hour shifts other than thinking about, oh gosh, just make it through 30-hour shifts and get back to your kid. That's what I think about. Get back to the wife. Go. All right, hold on. These questions are, this is serious. Okay. So Utopian 5, how bad does withdrawals from classes affect one's application to medical school? It was due to means were beyond my control. I actually addressed that in another video when I talk about grades and withdrawals. But real briefly, withdrawals, one or two withdrawals are not bad, but when you have lots of withdrawals, it means that you're not a critical thinker and you don't learn from your previous mistakes, so they're bad. What about Mcat anxiety? Audio, I'm glad you asked about Mcat anxiety. It's a real thing, people getting anxious about the Mcat. And I mentioned yesterday I got my first Mcat course review for my new Mcat course. I got my second Mcat course review today, and it was so amazing. Can I read it to you guys? I don't know. Let's see if my computer's on. Let me see if I'll read it to you guys. I guess my computer's not on, so I won't be reading it to you guys. But the gist of the review, and you guys should check it out on my website, premedproductivity.com. Check out my MCAT course. The second review on there, I was like, this is so amazing. Is the student said, this course completely eliminated my anxiety about the MCAT. That was the title of their review. And I was like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. Right? I want to take all that anxiety, all that stress you feel, and replace it with confidence. And I'm really happy that that course did that for that person and made that person feel confident and remove their anxious. And they actually were saying in their review that they were so anxious. They actually studied for the MCAT last summer, and they were so anxious they actually had to stop and wait until this year to study for the MCAT. And now, after taking my course, they feel so confident and all their anxiety is gone. They feel like they're ready to go ahead and take the test. So I'm very proud of that. Thank you, Stacy, that you think my videos are amazing. Let's see, where are we at? Just scrolling through the chat, man, it's crazy. Okay, Marquise asks, how do residency programs view your medical school you attend? Do higher prestige schools really allow a person to get into more competitive residencies? The truth about school prestige is that it's real and it's not real. It's real in that if you go to a school like Stanford for medical school, that residencies are going to give you the benefit of the doubt if there's some questionable stuff on your application. They're like, well, they're a Stanford grad, so they might be all right. Let's bring them in for an interview. But if you don't have the goods, they're not going to let you in. At the same time, you can overcome going to a school that has lower prestige. And actually, I was talking about this with one of my mentors, right? We talk about being your best. And I said, listen, you can go to any school in the country of America and get into any residency program in the country of America after that. But if you go to a lower tier school, you're going to have to be that much better to get in. And because you're not going to get that extra nod, they're not going to assume that you were this great student coming in. And so that's how prestige affects your chances of getting into a residency. Same thing with medical schools. All right, we're going to do one more question because we are at 50 minutes, guys. Double how long I normally like to be. So we're going to do one more question. Let me scroll up here and see what we got. So Stacey said it's true. I just bought your course on your website and listened to it last weekend. I'm happy. I'm glad that that's helping you also. Um, so Ali asks what course I recommend signing up for. So guys, this is the whole point of what I'm trying to get at you guys. I'm trying to make affordable resources for you guys that are superior to what everyone else charges you thousands of dollars for. So when I say that you can take my courses and you can avoid having a mentor like me, you don't need a mentor or an MCAT tutor if you take my MCAT course. You don't need a tutor for your classes if you take my study course, on and on and on, my interview course, on and on and on. So I'm creating all these courses to fill in all the gaps to make you a total pre-med. So check them out. Come on, let's find a question. That's funny. Someone was going through my course and they got this alert to go live. Oh man, that's funny. Okay. Miss Lolo, what do you suggest for someone who can't decide between choosing to pursue RN, NPPA, MD route? That's a long video also. Also, guys, if I don't answer you guys' questions or answer them as completely as you'd like, please send me an email. Some of you guys are doing that, and I appreciate that, and I will do videos on this stuff. Please send me an email. It's not a waste of time. My email is andre@premedproductivity.com. Do not message me and say, hey, what's your email? I say my email in every single video and I write it in the comment box below the video. So andre@premedproductivity.com, send me an email. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Hassan, what type of med related extracurriculars that can give the clinical experience would you recommend a pre-med to do? Again, that's a longer video and it also depends on your interest. So please send me that question in an email and I'll try to get to it in a video. Devin Young asked, got a question. What was your meal schedule like during pre-med? Food is my biggest issue. I start studying at the library, and the only reason I leave is to go eat. And Devin, I actually have a whole section about barriers to studying effectively. And one of the barriers in my study course that we talk about are hangry barriers. You know, when you're so hungry, you're angry. And I talk about strategies for overcoming that with how you plan that out. So it's in my course. I know what you guys need, right? So it's in there. I got it covered. Dr. P, you need two monitors to do. No, I don't need two monitors. This is literally on my cell phone right now, guys. I'm on my cell phone. My arm is tired. I'm holding this phone right here. That's why it's all shaky like this. Uh, let's see. Why did I choose anesthesia? Again, that's a long video, but I'll have to do that some other time. So please send me that email. All right, one more question. We'll find one more good one. Um, let's see. Okay, actually, this is a good question to end on. Okay, good question to end on. Is Blaster Chris asks, I got in trouble for plagiarism when I was a freshman in college. I was told by my advisor I have 0% chance of getting in. Is there anything I can do? And this is a really unfortunate situation, guys. You can come back from all sorts of things. One thing that it's very hard to come back from, or there's two things. One is plagiarism, the other thing is theft. Okay? Theft. If you're a thief or you plagiarize, which is being an academic theft, right? Academic thief, then it's problematic. And so it will be very difficult if you've plagiarized and it's actually in your formal record. There's right, if you got caught plagiarizing and they gave you an F or whatever and it's just done. But if you actually plagiarized and you had to see the deans, there was formal discipline, anything like that, it's really, really hard to come back from that. Most schools kind of just throw you out of the pile. And there's actually a question section in the application that says, "Hey, have you ever been dismissed? Have you ever been put on probation?" All those types of things. And if you answer yes, it's very difficult for you to get into medical school. And I'm not saying it's over. You still have a chance, possibly, but you're really gonna have to be spectacular in other ways, and you're really gonna have to maybe even getting like a letter of recommendation from like a dean at that school or someone to say, listen, yes, he made a mistake. He was young. He's changed since then. Please consider him, give him a chance. Maybe something like that might work. But otherwise, it's really, really hard out there. So I appreciate you guys asking all these questions, and I'm sorry I can't get to more of these questions. We're at 55 minutes right now. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I will be coming to you guys live more often as my schedule lightens up. And this next week, I actually plan, and if you guys are down with it, let me know. Comment in this box, right? So if you're watching this live, comment right now. If you're not watching it live, comment. Actually, if you're watching it live now, don't comment now because I'm going to sign off of here. But if you're watching this in recorded version or you're watching it live, please take time and comment in the bottom of the box and let me know if you guys want me to go live more frequently because I can go live. I get busy, but if you guys like these low tech on my cell phone, just kind of getting on here and we can kind of just like shoot the, I don't know, like what is it called? We can just sit around and kind of roundtable things. I really like this. So if you guys like it, please let me know. Please reach out to me. Please comment. Tell me you like these videos where I answer your questions. Tell me that they're beneficial to you, and we can do more stuff like this. And as I said, the webinar I think is really, really rich because I can bring in things like I can load up PowerPoints and give you guys slides. I can get on the board. There's a lot more things I can do in the webinars. And so I think that's also something that we're going to be doing. So be on the lookout for those announcements about those webinars. And I can hear my wife. She's getting upset with me because she's waiting for me to have dinner. But again, right, family, work, balance. But I really, really appreciate you guys. Like I said, it's hard. If you guys have never made a YouTube video or never like gone and talked in front of people, or you guys know, right? You go to class, it's hard to talk in front of people. It's very nerve wracking to get on this internet with people that you necessarily don't know, and you're trying to, tell your story, trying to bring advice, but you're revealing yourself, right? And so it's difficult. So I appreciate you guys for being supportive of what I'm doing and what I'm putting out there. And I'm just so thankful to have the opportunity to be in front of you guys. And there's so much more coming your guys' way. You don't even know, guys. We are just getting on this iceberg of I'm telling you guys, if you're not already, and it is what it is, get into one of my courses so you can get in our community and be a part of us. In the YouTube, we have a community here, but we're building something so special, guys, a place where people can be positive, where they can be themselves, and where they can see their true potential, and where you can support other people and know that by supporting other people, not only are you helping them, but you're helping yourself, guys. And so I'm really excited. Let's continue this positivity and building up this community where you guys can get good advice and you guys can feel good about yourselves. That's what it's about. Good advice, feeling good about yourself. So that was a long ramble, but thank you guys very much. Again, if you have questions, if you asked a question on here and I did not get your question, I'm very, very sorry. It's 58 minutes now, but send me an email. I promise you I will get back to you. As I said, this weekend I'm sitting down, I'm going through all the emails, and what I'm going to try to do is just literally get an email and I'm going to film a video. Get an email, film a video. Get an email, film a video this whole weekend. And so you guys are going to see like a massive influx of material on my channel. But I want to give you guys all this information. I'm not trying to hoard the information. I'm trying to give you this information. It's just hard to really go into detail with a shaky cell phone in a couple minutes on YouTube. But I'm trying to bring you guys this information. I'm trying to be there for you guys. So thank you guys very, very much for being on here with me. And as always, like, you tell a friend, let's spread this around. Let's blow this up. Let's get it out there so people can get real advice so they can stop being confused about what they have to do to get to medical school or dental school or nursing school, or wherever it might be. All right. So thank you guys. I am out. Dr. Pinesett, you know what it is. Later, guys. Yes, I will go eat some dinner. Thank you.